I haven't seen a ton of anime, but out of what I have seen, Spy Family stands alongside One Punch Man and Assassination Classroom as one of my top 3 favorites. Is it because it's a perfect show? Oh god, no, absolutely not. But I can stomach any of the obnoxious shit because I love the main cast of characters so dearly. Whether they're progressing Operation Strix or just having a fun family outing, I could watch the Forgers go on their adventures forever. So when I found out they were getting a movie with a unique story not being adapted from anything in the manga, I was both excited and concerned. On one hand, it was something that I wouldn't have read already. On the other, it means I knew that going in there would be very little chance that it would have any real impact on the show since it still needs to follow the roadmap that the manga set out. Still, I've seen bangers like the Detective Conan movies and some of the Dragon Ball movies that still managed to get me invested in the story they tell despite being non-canon and inconsequential to the overall franchise. So I was keeping an open mind for Code White to live up to how much I like the show. Did it? Kinda, in the sense that it hits the phenomenal highs with some real annoying lows. But it is a bit harder for me to not let those low points influence how I'd rate a movie rather than a show. Let's go over those low points first to get them out of the way, since there are only really 2 major flaws holding it back for me. Then I can spend the rest of the video being almost exclusively positive and only mentioning minor gripes whenever they come up. Oh, and be warned, I will be spoiling stuff, so go see the movie first. Especially so that you have context because it is not out digitally, so I can't grab much footage. This is mostly going to be B-roll. Firstly, Yar's jealousy subplot. It's actually quite bad. As soon as she saw Lloyd grabbing Nightfall's hat getting blown away in the wind and mistook it as him cheating on her, I was very worried for the rest of the movie. The misunderstanding between lovers stemming from a lack of communication is a trope that really gets on my nerves almost every time it's used. And this is not an exception. I especially didn't like how they kept flashing back to her co-worker going over the 3 signs of infidelity as if we couldn't pick up on it ourselves. The scene on the Ferris wheel where they do properly talk it out is nice for the most part, and I like that Anya forces them to do so, but instead of letting the emotional moment play out, they end it with a cliche anime embarrassment slap and it comedically falls flat except for when Lloyd sticks the landing after getting tossed out the car. What makes this worse though is that it is one of the worst examples of self-plagiarism that I have seen in quite some time. It is almost beat for beat the same as an arc Yor has towards the end of season 1, except there it's actually well handled. Her anxieties feel more justified since she actually meets Nightfall and sees that Lloyd gets along with her. Her hitting Lloyd is easier to be played for comedy since she's absolutely fucking plastered and Lloyd is getting cocky trying to push the relationship further than she's prepared to go. And more importantly, it doesn't end with that joke. It ends with what might be the most effective emotional beat in the show for me, as Yor lets Lloyd know that she feels inadequate and he responds with his first showing of openness and vulnerability not under the spy facade. It's genuinely one of my favourite scenes in anything I've seen for the last few years. The movie isn't interested in doing anything nearly as compelling. I appreciate that they resolve it in the second act and the payoff with the other agent being outed as a cheater in the end is kinda funny, but the rest of this plotline did not work for me at all. Some of the humour was also kind of off. Some stuff I expected, like the cameos from the side characters that I don't care for in the show, but other stuff like the Poop God segment felt weirdly quirky and immature and not in an endearing way. The misses weren't too frequent, but whenever they came around they really took me out of it. Thankfully the movie's humour was mostly pretty solid. And I guess that can lead me into the positives because that's pretty much every big problem I have. The characters here are just as charming and likeable as always. Lloyd is still the cool spy guy and our de facto main character as he's the one with the most agency in the story and is the one able to push the majority of it along. I might not have liked Yor's jealousy plot, but she's still mostly funny and able to bring Lloyd back down to reality whenever he's too oblivious to how Anya's feeling. Also, she gets to do assassin stuff in this movie, which is nice given how rare that is in the show. There's a brief sequence near the start of her carrying out a job, and then her role in the climax, which I will get to later. And Anya, while being my least favourite of the main 3, is still very endearing and fun to follow. She's sort of the emotional glue that holds the family together, and her telepathy can get her to put forward solutions to problems that her parents don't even know about, like how she's the one who got them to go on the aforementioned Ferris wheel. And while it did lead to the dreadful Poop God sequence, I think it's really funny that one of the most tense plot beats in the third act revolves around whether or not Anya will be able to hold in taking a shit. Hell, in general the movie's pretty funny. It has its misfires like I said, but generally all the humour coming from these characters trying to pull whatever lies out of their ass that they can to keep their secrets, and the non-telepaths being none the wiser, is able to stay very consistently comedically strong. I love the differing reactions between Yor and Anya when Lloyd tries to get them to believe that he flew large military fighter crafts as a part-time job in college, or when he doubles down on the chocolate robbers group that Anya invents on the spot so that Yor won't suspect the microfilm. Speaking of the microfilm, the plot of this movie is bonkers occurs. The family goes on a trip to try some dessert for Anya to make for a school class, and then along the way, Anya accidentally eats a chocolate that contains microfilm with information that could start an all-out war and bring an end to peacetime in the country, perfectly escalating from the fun slice of life stuff to the high-stakes war prevention, balancing both aspects of what makes up the series super well. It takes a bit for that war plot to fully get going, but for once that's not a complaint. It's important for a spy family movie to have those slower, lower stakes scenes before ramping up to the absurd shit. I love that they get to have time to just chill in a restaurant, and the villain gets to hamper their quest for the dessert before the stakes with the war are even brought up. I like them getting to hang out in the marketplace while looking for ingredients as well. And again, even though I wasn't a fan of your subplot here, I think it was a good idea to establish and resolve the conflicts between the family members and the worry that Operation Strix might get called off before all the action starts. Okay, I can't go any longer without bringing it up. The third act of this movie is fucking nuts. The action and animation here are undoubtedly the best in the series. The rest of the movie already looks stunning. Why does anime food look so good and all that? But it's here that they really get to shine. Lloyd's dogfight as he has to land the plane on the military craft is so exciting, as is his infiltration to try and find Anya after she'd been taken by them. One more underspoken scene that I actually really liked is when he recognizes the guys that kidnapped her because he spotted the part of their sleeve that Bond had ripped off trying to stop them. So he beats the shit out of them, even though he doesn't really need to. It's of minimal benefit to the mission, it never becomes plot relevant, hell they don't even address it afterwards. But it's so sweet to see him have that instinctive emotional response to show that he does care about his daughter even if he tells himself that he shouldn't. Oh, I've reminded myself that I haven't mentioned Bond yet. Yeah, he's great in this. Unfortunately, he gets left behind on ground level for the final battle, but that's also fine. I don't think my heart could take the stress of seeing him in danger like that. Anyway, Lloyd's infiltration gets him yet another encounter with the main villain, the Colonel. And holy shit, this dude's a fun antagonist. Not deep or sympathetic in the slightest, he just wants a war to break out. But what he lacks in motivation, he more than makes up for in being so deliciously evil, and by God is it entertaining. He will take any opportunity to start conflict and test experimental weaponry. He has no issues with tormenting a child, either by stealing their food or cutting them open with a knife. And if any of his henchmen betray him or disobey orders, he is more than willing to shoot them where they stand without hesitation. He's unhinged and I love him. He also poses a genuine threat, both physically with all the troops at his beck and call, and with how Twilight has actually met his match as a spy with his keen senses and attention to detail. We get a glimpse of it in the restaurant when he's able to be more specific with the sugar and the desserts, and now even Twilight's disguises won't work because the Colonel can tell from his scent that he isn't the people that he's posing as. Great way to put our protagonist on the back foot, though I'm not quite as big of a fan of how Lloyd takes him out. He just kind of pulls a disguise of him out of Bugs Bunny Hammerspace, which is pushing believability a little, and their hand-to-hand fight is really well animated, but Lloyd wins a lot easier than I would have liked, and then he's just done. Lloyd orders the goons to carry the faker away, and they never try taking his disguise off apparently. Still, the gunfight was cool, and I like that Anya got to contribute by opening the windows to take care of the poison gas. And that's to say nothing of Yor's fight with Type F. Is he a more compelling villain? Absolutely not, he's barely a character. But what he is a cyborg with a Gatling gun arm, and that's fucking awesome. Their battle on the walkways is insane. Yor has met her own match in raw strength for once and can't put a dent in him with the limited weaponry she has. So she just has to try and outmaneuver and outsmart him using her environment to her advantage. The way she ends up taking him down has to be the most hype use of lipstick I've ever seen in a movie. The perfect Chekhov's gun that I didn't see coming at all, and it was so damn hype. Same with the way that Lloyd's ricochet shot was set up earlier at the game stand. Dad? The final bit of the three working together to steer the craft away from crashing into the town warmed my heart as well. It's not the kind of thing the series is normally able to facilitate with its action, so it was a very cool novelty. And it turns out Anya never swallowed the microfilm. It was stuck to her teeth the whole time. Wait, did the chocolate not fall down her throat without her chewing it? Am I remembering that scene wrong? I can't exactly go back and check whenever I want, so let me know in the comments if I'm just stupid, I guess. Then they get back home and Anya's cooking class is cancelled, so there's no real outcome of their journey and everything gets to be entirely self-contained. I'd understand if people found that frustrating, but it's something I already accepted going in. There was never any real chance that this film was actually going to kill off any of the main characters, or Anya would get awarded another Stella that she doesn't have in the manga already. It was never going to be will they win, more how will they win. It's more about the journey than the destination after all, and it was a damn fun journey to follow. It's flawed for sure and not top tier Spy Family, but I loved it wholeheartedly, and and it was such a special experience to finally see one of my favourite anime on the big screen, considering how rarely that opportunity comes around. I even stayed to the post-credit scene where Frankie showed up with a liqueur after being completely forgotten about and rendered obsolete. I mean every word of that positively. He easily got my favourite role of all the show's side characters in this, but that's also not saying much. The one complaint with the theatrical experience is that I had to see it in IMAX. Not that I had the option to see it, it was damn near the only option I had. On the day I went, there were only 5 showings, with the only normal one being at nearly 9 PM, which I just couldn't be bothered with. And the picture quality was incredible, obviously, but outside of a few shots, I didn't see much reason to see it with a double ticket price. The only other films I've seen in IMAX are Dune 2 and Oppenheimer, both of which warranted it for sure. This one, not so much. And at least those two gave me the option not to. That's enough complaining about my local theatre though, let's close this out. Spy Family Code White is a great time. An easy recommendation to fans of the anime or manga, and to people who are interested in getting into it. The narration in the intro gives newcomers all the info they need to be up to speed, so it serves quite well as an entry point into the series. If it's still in cinemas near you whenever this video releases, I'd say it's worth seeking out. It's one of my favourite theatrical experiences of the year so far. Not quite reaching the heights of Monkey Man, and especially not The Holdovers, but a solid 3rd place contender. Maybe it could have been the best one if Lloyd told the Colonel that he was penis cancer in human form. Or if the Yor subplot was well written, that would have helped too. Alright, that'll about do it for this video. Go watch Code White, or the show, or read the manga, or play the Anya video game that's coming out apparently. Just go check out Spy Family if you haven't already. And if you already have, go do it again, idiot. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. See you later.